contract worker for Lifeway for 15 years doing transitions. And so this call today, the purpose of this Zoom call today was to share some ideas, suggestions, and strategies for especially reaching out to freshmen when we don't have summer orientations. A lot of you guys depend on summer orientations to get your names, which we do too here at LSU. And so we're going to share some things about some other ways that you can get names or even be a part of summer orientations. And we're also going to share some freshman strategies, which I know is critical for this right now. And I just pray that everything's going well for you. I know it's crazy times for all of us, but we'll go ahead and get started. Ben Maddox is going to share first. I'll just go and introduce everybody again. Ben Maddox is going to share first from Tennessee, and then Clayton Bullion's going to share, and then Morgan Owen from Tennessee is going to share again, and then Robbie Nutter from Kansas State, and then I'll share some things. And so that's kind of our order. After we finish with that, Arliss, if he gets on, is going to preside. If not, I'll kind of moderate. After we finish with me, we're going to open it up, and I want for sure Ginger Bowman. I just saw Ginger. I want you to share a little bit about your website there, and some others can share things that you're doing, other things we haven't talked about today, or you can ask questions. So that's our plan. So go ahead and take off if you would, Ben. Okay.
All right. Hey, good to see everybody. So again, my name is Ben Maddox. I serve at Tennessee Tech. It's in Central Tennessee. It's in Cookeville. So it's a regional, statewide type school.
Okay, hurry.
Can everybody hear me?
Hey, make sure to put yourself on mute if you're not the one talking.
All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
Thumbs up if I can go ahead. Thank you. All right, so Tennessee Tech's it's a regional school, but it also has a statewide emphasis because it's an engineering school. So that's kind of my context. It's a campus of about 11,000 students and such. So, so in my context, I actually don't get a Baptist preference list, and I don't participate in, I don't get to participate in orientations, which is kind of unique to be in the South and have that situation, but I think it will help maybe in this discussion, since most of us won't get orientations this summer. So much of our context, we try to connect in about 80% of our students come from about a 90-mile radius from our campus. And so we really try to connect during the summer with the churches in that area to give us names of students coming our way. We get some names that way, but our best efforts are really when students arrive in August. So we do a lot of stuff. If you went to the website on that Google Drive, the main sheet I have there is the one that says discipleship process. It's got some back to school events that we do. And so one of the very first things, our students move in on Thursday. We've already had our leadership there, and any student who wants to move in early that's helping us gets to move in. And then we do the great move-in day on that day. And so the university allows us to be a part of helping with move-in. And that night we do a block party. At the block party is kind of when we start collecting names. So we use a Google form and we use wristbands. So like we'll have churches host different aspects of food and refreshments on our front lawn. And they're spread out all over, but we have things like snow cones that we pay for. And so we just ask the students to register with us, and then we'll give them a wristband and they can get like snow cones and stuff. And so we kind of use that as a catch. And then we participate with the university's Welcome Week stuff with organizational fair, religious fair, and things like that. But then by Saturday, they move on Thursday. By Saturday, we do our freshman survival. And so those several days are really key about us connecting with students. So between Thursday and Saturday, we typically collect 300 to 400 names that we try to reach out to and stuff. And then we as everybody else, we do promotional information to kind of promote the freshman survival event. And so that's really where we use that as our launch pad into those continued relationships. And that's why I used, on my handout, I had discipleship processes, because I believe the way we do our discipleship is we don't allow the groups to get too large. In fact, they stay about 8 students. And I actually encourage our students to build the relationships and invite the students into that discipleship relationship. I don't do a placement kind of model where students can sign up to be discipled. I allow our Welcome Week events to provide those opportunities to connect with one another and invite the new students into these relationships. And so 3 years ago, we started this model, and we started with 8 groups. Now we have 25 groups that we're up to. And so these, like I said, they don't get any larger than 8, and then they multiply. So then from freshman survival on, we basically have a survival group that each freshman is assigned to at the freshman survival. And then those group leaders stay with them until all of the students are being placed into a discipleship group. We have about a week after we start, we have like a freshman reveal night so that they get to find out what group they're going to be in. And then the upperclassmen, they do that more organically, where they actually go ahead and start inviting the upperclassmen into their groups. And so the stuff from Adventures to Cookville all the way to Wacky Long Games, they're very much, every time we have an event, the students that they're connected to or connecting to, they're actually meeting up with them and inviting them to walk to a specific location to meet them, to walk over to the event. We try to lessen the stress level of our new students not being overwhelmed by groups. Because, I mean, like our block party, we'll have probably 400 students come to it. And when you've got students in a rural area, that's pretty overwhelming of an experience. But we try to create some small group dynamics that helps them connect to people that they've built that trust with in that week, and that they know that they can walk over to the event together. And then you notice we've got 2 different types of groups. We've got our Portico group, and those are actually freshman family groups.
Ben, sorry to interrupt you for a second, but
Yeah.
It's not letting anybody over 100 in. Bill, can someone ask if you can live stream it? There's a bunch of people trying to get in and we're over 100. You know anything about that, Bill?
We can't live stream it. All we can do at this point is continue to record and post the recording up. So just let folks know that this afternoon, the recording will be available on that website.
All right, so back to the Portico groups. They all meet on Thursday. So we typically, in the last 3 years, we've had anywhere from 70 to 100 freshmen involved in our Porticos on Thursday night. And so we put those in family groups recently we've had like 13 groups that meet in our building. And so we typically start out with a fun large group activity, and then they break up into their small groups. And those are co-ed groups. They're led by one upperclassman male and one upperclassman female. And then basically, once they're done with their groups that night, then they're dismissed. They can kind of hang out or head back to the campus. And then we do that for the fall. And then in January, when we start out spring, we move all of the Portico groups. They actually become a part of our community groups. And so we only allow our freshmen to stay in the building meeting for that one semester. And one of the reasons is because we're trying to move them into their mission field, because most of our dorm residents are freshmen. So in January, they actually go gender specific, and we encourage them to plant themselves where they live, play, or study. And so, for instance, if I was in a freshman dorm on the hallway, that would be my mission field. And we strategically have opportunities where they serve in their mission field, they share the gospel in that mission field, and we make it not just about the Bible study and prayer and accountability, but we're actually trying to encourage our students to do outreach and evangelism, missions, and all those kind of things together. And so that's kind of the big picture of what we do. On the second page, I've just thrown out some stuff like, here's kind of the framework or how we do our freshman ministry in the fall. So we typically do about 3 weeks on different aspects, gospel foundational truths about what it means to be a Christ follower. And then we have a fun event. Then we do 3 more weeks, a fun event. And then we try to wrap up and such. And so, and then if you notice on that second page, there are some of our objectives that we want to lay. I don't really assume that our students are believers, or I assume that they've been discipled and know what discipleship is. And so we use that first semester as really that to lay that foundation for our students to understand what it means to be a Christ follower, or better yet, what it means to be a disciple who makes disciples. And then we cast that vision that our goal is to saturate the campus with a gospel presence. And the best way to do that is to have a multiplying model of small groups. And so once any of our groups get to 8, we encourage them to split into 2 groups of something like 4. And they always develop a leader from within. And then, and so that's how we've been able to grow our small groups from 8 to 25 or so in the last 3 years. And so a lot of this is real organic. We use smallgroup.com for our material. It's editable, and you can email it electronically in a PDF form or Word form. And so I really feel like with all the adjustments of what's going to happen in the fall, it's going to be hard to do large group stuff. So I really think that the small group model is going to play a real pivotal part in how we do ministry next year. And so anyway, that's kind of why I emphasize the small group dynamic of our freshman ministry. I feel like that's going to be a big part of how we move forward with things. That's it.
Hey, Clayton, go ahead.
And those
Thank you for sharing.
those fun events, Ben, serve as on-ramps for the students that missed your first August week events, right?
Yes. And students can come in at any point and join us. It's basically open the whole semester.
Sure. Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Clayton, go ahead.
Well, hey guys, it's good to be with you guys. My name is Clayton. I'm at Tarleton State University. We're kind of a regional D1 school in Texas. So we're about 13,000 students, and then also work with the Campus Multiplication Network. Kind of give us some backdrop. So as a rule, student organizations are not allowed on our freshman orientations, really ever. And so the past 4 years, we've had to wait till fall to connect with our freshmen in an official way. But then we've also finagled a couple of brother-in-law deals where we've been able to sneak into a couple different places. But it's being recorded, so I'm not going to share those with y'all because I don't want to be incriminated. But so as a rule, we haven't had a lot of interaction with students, and so I'm going to share with you kind of what we do with our local churches, and some of that Ginger is going to hit on probably later since she's our coordinator for that in Texas. But then also what we do with social media. One of the things that has been really helpful for us is to figure out what are the hashtags our student life, our student engagement offices are using. So like for us, every freshman class, it's always hashtag Tarleton and then their graduating year. So our incoming freshmen are hashtag Tarleton 24. So we know all of our freshmen, when they're trying to figure out their roommates and who's in what dorm and what org they're going to be a part of, they're always tweeting or Instagramming using hashtag 24. And then there's a couple others that kind of show up. And so one of the things I'd encourage you guys to do is find the hashtag that your student life office, your engagement office, your first year experience office are using, and then begin to incorporate that into the things that you're doing. If you want to know how to do good social media engagement of your freshmen before they land on your campus, you need to go follow all your Greek organizations on campus because they do it better than us, hands down. And so already the Greeks on our campus have started posting why I went Greek, and they've tagged their chapter in it, and then they've used our university hashtag. Because what happens is freshmen, when they're trying to figure out what to be involved in on campus, they use the hashtag to figure out who that is. And so we have seen freshmen, we've known freshmen to do the Tarleton whatever hashtag, and then just follow every single person who has it in their profile pic or their profile. And so if you look at Tarleton BSMs, we've got all those hashtags in our stuff, and so we just get followed. The thing that we got to think through is not just like our ministry Twitter, our ministry Instagram, but also our personal our student leaders' personal accounts too, because let's face it, you guys know this. When you say, "Hey guys, we're all going to go to fall retreat, y'all should come," everybody kind of rolls their eyes. But if one of your students goes to your freshman and say, "Hey, you should come to fall retreat with me," they take it a lot more serious. And so a lot of this is being able to push that down on your student leaders, saying, find some ways to keep updated about. So like one of the things that we'll do is we'll say all of our student leaders and our students say, "Hey, would you post over the next couple weeks a picture about why you love our ministry and how it's changed your life?" And so our students will do that. Post, "This is why I joined the BSM, the Texas Baptist Student Ministry. This is why I joined BSM. This is what it's meant to me. Hashtag Tarleton24, hashtag bleed purple, hashtag whatever, small rural town, eat culture, whatever your campus is." And so find those hashtags and find ways for your students to kind of express that. One of the things that we've started doing and our freshman team has started doing really, really well is as we've spent some time on those feeds, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, if a student posts like, "Hey, I got accepted to Tarleton," because it's one of those things where they show the little box that our school sends out, somebody will direct message them and say, "Hey, I'm super stoked you're coming. My name is so-and-so. This is what I do. Man, is there anything I can help with?" And for us, that may freak us out. It's like, whoa, that's invasion of privacy. That's creepy. That is not creepy for our students to meet friends on social media. It's not creepy. They are looking for people to connect with. And so the kind of the mantra we talk about is one step short of creepy. So we always, if we see something happen, we always say, "Hey, we're so glad you're here. Super excited. Is there anything I can do for you?" And if they don't DM back, then we don't keep sending that. We're not a cult. We're not going to keep sending them messages. We're going to throw out the line and see if anybody's interested. And so it's one step short of creepy. 2 years ago, we had a freshman who posted it, said, "Hey, I got accepted. I'm so excited. Excited what God's going to do in my life." Which on social media, as ministers of the gospel, God and Jesus showing up on a Twitter feed with the hashtag of our university, bells should go off. And so immediately, myself and one of our freshman leader messaged Caitlin and said, "Caitlin, super stoked you're coming to Tarleton. Man, it seems like you've got, faith is important to you. Tell me your story." So Caitlin lands on our campus. Caitlin is not a believer. She's just a Southern cultural Christian. And you're supposed to say God and Jesus when you do stuff like that. And Caitlin came to know Christ and we baptized her. And so yesterday we interviewed her for our student leadership team in the fall. And one of the things she said is, "I want to be a freshman leader because I want to connect with freshmen on social media because that's how I got plugged in." So it works. One of the things I would say though is just looking around this room, a couple of you look like college students, but the rest of us look like creepers. Okay. And that's okay. That's okay. It's not your fault. We all have a lot of wisdom here. So one of the things I would encourage us to do on our profiles is, if we do some of this, to make sure that you've got your profile pic of you in your university gear. Okay. And that your feed is full of you with college students. Because imagine a bald-headed bearded man contacting a 18-year-old recent high school graduate, and it's pictures of me and my family and my recent fishing trip. That's not going to connect if I've got on Tarleton purple and my profile header picture is a bunch of us at our spring break mission trip. So you want to look like you belong on the college campus. I realize some of you guys have been waiting for that perfect stage lit preaching pose. Go ahead and pull that off your profile because freshmen don't care. Find something that looks like you belong. Like Warren Etheridge is in here somewhere. I saw the name. One of Warren's best photos is it's him with the entire Spirit mascot, like the whole student organization. And every time he was at our campus, that's what he threw up on his profile pic. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, he knows all of this group. So it enabled him to connect with a lot of people on social media. Or normally they'd try to figure out why is this awkward mid-20s person trying to connect with me. So the older you are, the more students you need to have in your feed if you're going to do this. Otherwise, it's just creepy. It's just one step short of creepy. Don't be creepy. The second thing that we do is, like I know that Bill and the Lifeway crew have got the SBC Connect and some ways to kind of connect and look. Texas has got texasfreshman.com, which is a way to kind of connect and people can kind of go in there. One of the things that we're finding in our context is if we can get our student leaders and our students who are really bought in to go back to their youth groups and their youth ministers and say, hey, we fit in, we beat the statistic, we're followers of Jesus still. Discipleship evangelism has kind of taken part of our lives. It's been because of this campus ministry. Would you be willing to give us all of our graduating seniors? Of course, for them, it's just one grade below them, 2-3 grades below them. But could you please give us all of their names so that we can connect and pass it on to everybody else? Another thing is that all of a sudden, it's starting in January, I started to go to all the ministerial, like the youth minister hangouts, which was fun. We ate pizza, we played fun games. Definitely reminded me why college ministry is my calling and not youth ministry. But I started going to where all the youth ministers spent time together. And I would say, hey, listen, if you've got graduating seniors, I don't care if you're, and Steve Masters is one of the guys that talks about, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic, polka dot, cult, whatever it is, just give me your contact information and I'll make sure I sort it to the right people, unless it's a cult, and then we keep it, of course. But find connecting on the local level and collecting all the seniors information in our local churches. And even if they're not coming to my campus, we're sending that on. So we actually this year, do I have permission to share the screen? Can I do this? I'm gonna try, and if it works, it works. So this year on our website, we are developing, this is it's just our website /seniors. And so we have found that SBC Connect works really good, Texas Freshmen work really good, but some of our local churches, they trust us more than they trust a larger entity. In Texas, one of the things we have like 4 different flavors of Baptist, 3 different Baptist conventions, and depending on, the day and which way the wind's blowing, depends on who's friendly with who. But we have some churches that won't give it to the larger convention that we're a part of, but they trust me as the local minister, and so they'll give the information to me, and then I get to pass it on. And so we've created this website that we're going to pass on to all of our youth ministers, the Christian school in town, kind of all these different churches. And basically it is a little bit of information. This is the spot where there's going to be a great video of one of our students sharing testimony, how they got connected in the summer before they came to Tarleton. And then also one of our local high school graduates who got connected to a campus out of our city beforehand and got connected. And then we haven't uploaded that yet. So just picture something really well done, hopefully. But then we have a form at the bottom, which we took straight from texasfreshman.com, which essentially is give us your information and what college you're going to. And then once it submits, it goes to our email address. And that way, as campuses, as seniors get their information, they may be headed to, the University of Texas or Texas A&M or, God forbid, Oklahoma, wherever they end up, we can pass that on within the larger campus ministry network. So those are some of the things that we have done, we're doing. The social media thing, we've seen that it's worked pretty good for us as well. So back to you, Steve.
Clayton, thanks for sharing that. Clayton, can you get that website information to Bill? And Bill, can you post it on that website we got so they can find that again? I think that's a great idea. And by the way, you guys,
Sure.
these first 2 guys don't get the Baptist preference list. They don't get names in summer orientations. So that's why we kind of had them go first. The next guy is going to share. Morgan doesn't get the Baptist preference list, but he's got a unique way of getting the entire list. So Morgan Owen's going to share, and then Arlos is back on again. So Arlos will take over moderating from here.
All right, thanks, Steve. My name is Morgan Owen. I work with the Baptist Collegiate Ministry at the University of Tennessee at Martin. In Tennessee, the UT system has several campuses. We're in Northwest Tennessee, about a little under 6,000 students. I look at our campus a lot like Mayberry, in our university that way as well. You know, there's a lot of things we're able to do here that can't be done at other universities. But I want to really press a few things that are important, and that is this. You may think you can't get the names of your students. I'm here to tell you, you can get the names of your students. It may not happen tomorrow. It may not happen the next year. You have to begin the process, and it's valuable that you get those names. The first step that I took as I walked onto the campus was a trip over to the administration building, and the previous campus minister, as he was taking me around, introduced me to Teresa. Teresa was in charge of database information and getting the information out to the professors and other administration individuals. And she was the one who made the names possible. We're talking not just Baptist names. All of the campus ministries receive the list of every incoming student that will be preparing for the fall semester. And so that was a different day and time, 17 years ago, a different day and time, obviously. And we've been on a journey through that process. We've been blessed by getting those names. I can tell you that there were bumps along the way. Teresa, at one point, because of some conversation at the university concerning student privacy issues, told me she would not be able to give us the names. A sweet lady, Church of God lady, and went home, and 3 days later messaged me back and said, I believe in what you all are doing. I'm going to get those names to you. And that happened because of the relationship that I had with Teresa. You need to find some gatekeepers at your university. She's a gatekeeper for our ministry and collectively all of the campus ministries. Which I want to bring up as far as really a main point, and that's this. If you don't have a collection of campus ministers that get together on a regular basis, you need to do that. There's a value in you working together. The kind of the mindset that we have for ours, and we don't have a whole lot. It's Baptist, it's the Wesley Foundation, it's the Church of Christ, and then we also have an Assembly of God ministry. But we have this mindset that we win together. The value of you working together, showing the university a unified front, makes doors open. It gives a great presence to the administration. How does that play out for us with another gatekeeper? We have the chancellor. He serves basically as the president of our university. That chancellor was in a Zoom meeting just yesterday with us campus ministers. He prayed for us and we prayed for him. Now, it is a unique situation, but he's a gatekeeper. We know that there may be times in which things may happen in the future. He's a way that can that we can get things done, that he can go to bat for us. And there are other individuals you know as well. Dean of Students, Housing, the person over housing. There's a student or individual over student retention at our university. We basically added all of our numbers together to show this is the total number of students that we're impacting. And when you have those conversations with those gatekeepers, you need to speak their language, and their language is attraction, retention, and graduation. Also, other words to toss out there, your ministry does leadership development. Your ministry does community service. By throwing those words out, it legitimizes in the minds of those people in the administration that you are a benefit to the whole. And so that's what you want to do with this. And so, yes, you can get the names. Now, this is what happened in our journey. we ended up having a situation where the paperwork that a student fills out, the application, had on it a question about an individual's denominational faith or religious faith. What faith are you? That question was removed 2 years ago from the application for students. And we basically discussed with our chancellor, with Teresa, with the dean of students and the individual in charge of retention, how can we still get these names? There was questions swirling whether we would be able to. And if you go to the ACT website, what you will notice is that the ACT asks the question about student faith. It gives them the opportunity to indicate what faith do they claim. And your university receives that information because they receive the ACT scores from that test for your students. So because of that, they have the information on religious preference. So I want to encourage you, you need to think about the fact that you work together as campus ministries to get inroads to get that information. Now, this is another reason why it's important. Fraternities are getting those names. They're getting that information. Sororities are getting those names and they're getting that information. There are certain majors that are at your campus that may have a higher level of visibility. For us, it's agriculture and the vet school program. They get the names early, some of those organizations within that. So we went that route and emphasized if those student organizations receive the names, we should be able to receive the names as well, because we are a student organization. That's why being a student organization is valuable. It puts you in the best position to have effective ministry done, especially in reaching freshmen at the beginning of the school year. Never stop asking. Always be asking, how can we get this done? How can we make this happen? For us, it was, again, through those relationships. That's really about it. Don't give up, guys. You can get the information. And right now, with everything going on with COVID-19, they're going to want you to be on their team. They're going to want you because you have been effective. And again, sharing the numbers with them on the number of students that you've had in your ministry. When you show that students were happy through your program. Yesterday, when I spoke with the chancellor, I made the comment, we have 20 seniors that aren't able to graduate and have their celebration event. And those 20 seniors have been invested in this ministry and has impacted hundreds, mainly because of all the incoming students that have attended some of our freshman events. So by throwing out to those individuals of influence your value, you're making it aware to them that that you are a team player. We have to be deemed as team players through this process. So, Steve.
Back to Arliss now. Arliss, you got it. Hey, Arliss, you're muted. Arliss, unmute yourself.
Steve.
Arliss, I think you're unmuted now. Can you
All
hear
right, now, okay. Am I on now?
Yes.
Sorry, I've had a lot of tech issues today. Let me just say something to what Morgan said about some people will hand you the list to the side, and good relationships is a part of that, but also related to ACT, SAT. At one point, the university told us that their computer did not take that off of the list, but we were able to buy the list from ACT. We said we want all the Baptists who put number 1, our campus, and we were able to say this is the max number we would buy. So we knew we weren't going to spend more than X amount of money. So you might check on that. That's another couple of ways to go as well. And then also we found on a couple of campuses, they were selling a freshman list to insurance agents. And so then we said, hey, okay, you want to sell to us, or do you want us to send a Baptist insurance van in to buy it, kind of deal. So, there's 2 or 3 different ways to go there. Hey, Robbie Nutter, glad you're here. Tell us a little bit out of the buckle the Bible belt, some ways you're connecting with freshmen.
Thanks, Arliss. Yeah, so I'm Robbie Nutter. I'm at Kansas State. Our context is our enrollment's right around 22,000. Our enrollment's been declining for a few years, might be just under 22,000. College town, the town's built around the university, about maybe 60,000 in our town, so 22,000 students there. We kind of like what Clayton said. I don't know if saying most of us look like creepers. That's kind of where we're at. Like I think the best people to reach freshmen are sophomores and juniors. The students reach students. So our process for reaching freshmen really starts in November. So I know that's already come and gone, but I wanted to share that with you. What we do is about the time when it's time for students to say if they're going to live in the dorms again or apply to be an RA or find an apartment for the next year or whatever, we try to get them right before all that wave comes. And we have a vision night for all of our freshmen. And we just have some testimonies from other students about how their lives were changed by people reaching out to them wherever they lived, in the dorms or whatever. We try to cast vision for them to live intentionally. Consider staying in the dorms. We have that option here, or living in your fraternity, staying in house in your sorority to live on mission. So we have that in November. That's really where it starts. We do recruiting all year long. So we're pretty connected just with a lot of churches around the state and youth ministers. And so we're always inviting youth groups to come to our weekly meeting, especially when the spring comes and they start coming, students start coming up for college visits. A lot of times they'll come on the night before to come to one of our meetings. And we kind of say, if the youth pastor or the church, the local church is kind of pushing them towards us, and we meet them and we walk them into places where we hang out, and we're pulling them on our side, there's a lot better chance for them to make it once they move here. So we do that all year long. And then we are a campus that we get about 200 names or so every year through new student orientation. So that has been a bonus for us, but I don't think that's our best thing that we do. And we won't have it this summer. Another thing we do during the summer besides that is we go to our youth camp every summer, and we'll go to every session of that camp. So 6 weeks long is what we have here. And we'll go every Tuesday night of camp, and we have a college day. And so we buy pizza for all the juniors and seniors in high school. And we bring a bunch of students that are around for the summer with us to the camp. We'll buy everybody pizza and ice cream, have students share testimonies about meeting God in college and about things that have been life-changing for them in college. And then we have the college students just kind of spread out in the room, and they eat meals. They eat around the table with all these juniors and seniors, and we have some questions to talk about. And then we get their names there. So we find out what university, if they're planning to go to university, which one they're going to, and we get their names and we distribute them to whatever campus they're going to there. So that's been helpful. We've been doing that for about 5 years, I think, and that's going really well. Then when the fall hits, we have our leaders come a week early, and we spend a week prayer walking campus and talking about kind of casting vision and for reaching new students and do some leadership development with them. And also before that, we've gone to the university, and this has been really helpful for us. We've gone to the university and said, hey, you know, we're Christian Challenge at Kansas State, and we want the same thing that you want. And we're here trying to help students have a good experience while they're here. Is there anything we can do to team up with you? Anything that, like, if you need any resources or any manpower, let us know. We'd love to help. And so we've kind of worked alongside the university with Welcome Week. That's been huge for us. They've rearranged their schedule of Welcome Week to accommodate us in the last couple of years. So we've tried to work at that relationship. And so part of the way that we help them is we bring a bunch of students in to help with dorm move-in 2 weekends in a row, because we help move in this. I don't know how it works at other places, but we have sorority girls that are going to rush sororities move in a week ahead of time. So we bring a bunch of students to help them move in, and then the next week we help with move in. We can't talk about Christian chat. We can't talk about our group during dorm move in, but we can invite students to a party. So we have a party planned the Saturday night of dorm move in, a barbecue that's all run by students. And there we can talk about our ministry and invite students to that. So then Welcome Week's big. We table all day, every day, all week of Welcome Week. And we also table out on campus on dorm move-in weekend. We just started doing that a couple of years ago. We'd never done it before. And I just noticed that as students were getting moved in, after they moved in, their families were taking campus tours. And we thought, why are we not tabling out on campus, you know, to interact with these families? So we started doing that. So we table a lot that first week. And then we try to have large events and small parties. And so we cast vision for our student leaders. We'd like for all of them to be a part of a couple small parties during that first 10 days or so. So like one of our big events that students love is we have we're an ag school also. We have our students here love to dance. So we have a big country dance in the dorm complex. And hundreds of students, they just hear the music and they just come pouring into the parking lot, and they're all line dancing and swing dancing, and we've got our banners up and stuff like that. And so that's a big event that we try to host. And then we ask our leaders to plan small parties directly following that. So a game night, movie night, go out and get pancakes and try to invite a couple people to that. And that's where we feel like that the connections are going to happen. So we try to host a few large group events followed by some small parties. So we do the dance night in the dorms is huge. We do like a picnic party thing at a park next to campus. And then we have a big kickoff event out on campus for our first weekly event as well, that we get a lot of traction with that. So I think that's everything that I was going to say.
Okay. One of the things I know that's been of particular interest is so much of what we've done in the past has been likely wiped out because of we don't know what's coming up. And I know Steve's going to say some things about something new he's been doing, but let me just backtrack real quick. Anybody doing anything different now, or an idea that you think would work now that'll help you connect you've not been doing before, either Clayton or Morgan or any of you guys?
One of the things we're doing is, since everything's gone virtual, it doesn't really matter where you're at. But if you're headed to our campus, you can jump in on our summer Bible study stuff. And so every student we've got that is indicated they're coming to Tarleton, remotely interested in Tarleton, or has a pulse, we're inviting to, because all of our stuff's virtual.
Okay, good. Morgan, are you doing anything different because of the virus, et cetera?
Not anything different. We've continued our programming, and I think that has helped us because we've seen some students that are incoming freshmen that are adding,
Okay,
becoming friends or adding us on Instagram. So I think
Okay.
that's been a priority for us.
good, good. Okay, speaking of creepy guys, Steve Masters at LSU is up next. And believe it or not, Steve's doing some new creative things and always is, if you want to know the truth. Steve?
Okay. Thank you all for your time today. I'll try to go pretty fast. We're trying to keep this thing about an hour, so I'll try to do it in about 10 to 15 minutes here. I want to thank the other guys that shared. Here's some basic beliefs I have about reaching freshmen. Reaching freshmen is one of my most important jobs as a collegiate minister. I would feel like I'm campus-based, but if I was church-based, I feel the same way. I think it's one of the most important tasks that I have. Reaching freshmen needs to be done in a variety of different ways. I don't think there's one way to do it. I think it's tried several different things simultaneously going on. I think there's 3 different types of freshmen that I need to reach out to. Be honest with you, until classes begin and orientations begin until the first day that a student arrives on campus, the group I'm trying to go after is a dedicated believer. I want that freshman that loves the Lord, that was active in his church. I want to reach them so they can help me reach out to group number 2. Once they arrive on campus for orientations or for the first day of class, then there's 2 groups we're trying to reach out to, which is the lost sheep. I've been doing this transition thing for 15 years, so I know what's happening. I can give you all kinds of statistics. 85 to 90% of our high school seniors have walked away from their faith by the time they graduate from high school. We're not losing them in college, we're losing them in high school. We want to bring those people back. And I think a lot of those will come to our ministries for the first couple of weeks. You'll see them. They're looking for relationships. And I think we got to really tap into, these guys have shared some good things to do with that. We got to tap into those relationships and try to help bring them back. And that's a constant struggle. I think our churches and our convention do a good job of caring about the believers, caring about the lost. I think we forget about the lost sheep a lot. I think we got to go after that group. What is going to renew them and remind them of how it used to be. Then the third group is the lost. Obviously, we always want to be sharing Christ. I'm going to share with you today some things some practical things. All this stuff that I'm sharing with you is downloadable on the website that Bill's got up there. The first one is the email we're very fortunate at LSU. We get the Baptist preference list. So I will get about 800 names this week of Baptist preference students at LSU. LSU is not in the Bible Belt, so we only get about 8% of our students, our 30,000 students, are Baptist. But those names are valuable. We'll get their name, their mailing address, their city, their state, their zip, and their cell number. And so we begin making contact with those. But we don't just depend on that list only. We've got about 200 names already we've secured because we do what was mentioned earlier. We start in November too. November, December, we start getting ready for the fall freshmen. And I've got about, I think it's 165 names of Baptist preference freshmen and 145 names of non-denominational, other denomination freshmen already. So we're already calling them, reaching out to that group. But the orientations are still important to us in the summertime. We probably get about a couple hundred names in the summertime. And so the first thing I would do if I was you is email your orientation person. Whoever is in charge of your orientation for this summer, if you've been involved in the past, see how you can be involved in online orientations. I did it yesterday. I sent an email to the person in charge of the orientations for the summer. I said the University Chaplain Association, they won't let us at LSU, they won't let us at LSU as a BCM be involved in orientations. We do it as a group, and I'm the officer that's in charge of those. So I sent an email on our behalf to asking if we can be involved in those, and I haven't heard back from them. The second thing that I think is always important, no matter what year it is, no matter what situation, is getting names from the churches. In Louisiana, Mark Robinson, our state director, believes strongly in us trying to get those names. So normally we send an actual hard copy letter to our 1,600 Baptist churches with a form. They can fill out that form and tell us the names of their graduating seniors and email it back to us or mail it back to us. This year, since we don't think they can get in their offices, we did an email, and I did it yesterday. I sent it to Mark, and that's in your information that you can see there. And it's got an email from me and then it's got a form. They can fill out this form, and some of the smaller churches, rural churches, will fill it out by hand and send it in. It asks for their name, their mailing address, city, state, zip, home phone, email address, and the college, university they will attend. Now, if they obviously, whatever school they're attending, it goes to that BCM director, they can follow up on it. The names we get of other people, we ask each BCM director in the state to follow up on their particular area. So if a kid's coming from, and we ask the churches to send us their Sunday school roll, because once again, we're going after that dedicated believer, but we're also going after that lost sheep. If they give us a Sunday school roll, that's how we find them and try to reach out to them. So, but I would encourage all you guys, I think this year, probably more than ever, we need to be going to our churches. Don't you agree with that? I was on a Zoom call right before this Zoom call, and there's 15 youth ministers in our Baton Rouge area, and I told them, I said, hey, how important it is that we get the names. So I would really go after your churches. Now, I would also, if I was in an emerging region area, or if I was in any area, I would also not limit this to Baptist churches. You can get this information from non-denominational Baptist churches, and I would encourage you to do so, and make a commitment to take those names and network them out. If a kid wants to be involved in crusade, tell them that you'll help them that, or get involved in refuge. Be a part of the kingdom mindset there. And I think I wouldn't just go after Baptist churches. The third thing I could do, this is something you guys may have ever thought about this, is reaching out to Christian schools. We have about 25 or 30 of them in Louisiana. And as the transitions coordinator for Louisiana, I sent an email to all of them back in December. A good example is Dunham High School. By the way, Derek Stingley was our starting hotshot All-American cornerback on our national championship football team. I thought I'd throw that in there. He went to Dunham High School. I had Derek's name when he was a high school senior and was able to reach out to invite him to get to school. So it was a non-denominational school that gave us the names. But I would go after your schools. Now, there's an email that I sent to every school in the state, and they haven't all responded yet, but one of them is interesting here in Baton Rouge. It's Catholic High School. I contacted their head priest, and I said, hey, I'd like to get the names of your seniors, and I will commit to getting those names to the whatever school they're going to in the state, to whatever organization they want to get involved in their network of BCMs, and he's going to give me the names. Now, there's a lot of Catholics at school, but there's also Baptists, there's Methodists, there's Presbyterian, non-denominationals. So somebody in your state might want to take that on. The next thing is, I agree 100% with what Morgan said. I've got some really strong feelings about whatever the fraternities and sororities get, we should get. They're a student organization, we are student organizations. And so I've got an example here. When I was at Oklahoma State, they were going to build a sidewalk across the campus, and they were going to put the Greek letters on it. Well, I called the person in charge and I said, hey, we want to put the BCM letters on there too. I think it kind of stunned them. They thought about it and got back with him and said, we're not sure if we're going to be able to do that. And I said, well, I think if you do it, I said, I'm going to peel up the ladder. And I would have went all the way to the president. They didn't do it, but you understand the principle there. If they get it, we want it. Here at LSU, I came here in 1991. I started doing orientations, summer orientations. And it's kind of interesting, for about first 15 years, to be honest with you, I was the only religious organization there, which always surprised me, because there's 14,000 Roman Catholics at LSU, the largest Catholic population in America, but they didn't come. Anyway, after about 15 years, I guess whatever year, I've got the dates in here, the Office of Student Organizations got organized, and there's 300 student organizations, and they became a group that represent all those 300 organizations. So the next year, 30 minutes before the first summer orientation, they called the BCM and said, Steve, you can't be there because you're an individual organization. This Office of Student Organization represented you. I called the person in charge, asked him one question, which I knew the answer to. I said, is the Office of Greek Affairs there? And they said, yes. I said, we have an umbrella organization called the University Chaplains Association. I said, if they're going to be able to be there, I think we should be able to be there. They agree with me. We changed our sign. We had a handwritten sign that first year, and we've been doing it ever since. And so I'm just telling you, if the fraternities and sororities get it, ask for it. Find out how they do it. Now, I'm going to share something about religious preference that relates to that in a little bit. Now, another thing I do, the reason I share this with you is I get names of students that are especially non-Baptist students from sending a letter to the parents of students. I have what's called a parent survey, and every student that I get that has a name of every student that we get a name of, we send a letter, and it's addressed to the parents of. It'll say the parents of and have their name, and it's a letter from me asking the parents to partner with me to help their son or daughter to get involved in our ministry. Well, they've got a survey that they can fill out, and on the survey, they can tell me about their son or daughter. They can tell me, and it's kind of interesting too, because a lot of times a kid won't walk up and say, hey, I'm a drummer, or I play the guitar, or I was involved as a leader in this organization, but parents will. So I find out a lot about the students. But one of the things that I ask them to do is to share with me names of other students. a few years ago, I got 11 names from one parent that shared with me that, when I called, it ended up 2 of the students who she shared with me got involved in ministry. Her son and daughter never did. And so, but it's just a way of getting other names is networking parents. And I think this year too, guys, we're going to go on, we've not done this like we're going to this year. On Facebook, on Instagram, we're going to ask parents, alums, and to help us find names, because they can find those in their churches. And once again, it can be all different denominations. So that's another thing if you want to see that. We're very fortunate at LSU that we get the religious preference information. And I told you about that already. Well, what happened is in 2011, the Catholic lady next door to me, a good friend of mine, contacted the university, and she mentioned something about getting the Catholic list so she could do some fundraising with them. Well, the registrar had been very concerned about giving out the names, and he decided that due to separation of church and state, he was going to do what like Morgan talked about. They cut it out. So I got an email, and it said the university chaplains is no longer going to be able to receive religious preference information. So I did 2 things. I went online and looked at all the our application. I looked at all the SEC applications. I looked at all the Louisiana applications. I got all that together, and I appealed to back to the registrar. He then sent it to the lawyer for the university, and my appeals were 2 reasons. First reason I said was on our statement, it actually says the information provided here will be provided to the church, basically a religious organization. And that was one reason I appealed, that we should be able to get this information. And FIFA, which is the rights and privileges that freshmen have, did not apply to us because we were getting permission from the student. The second reason I applied that we should get the information is we're ex officio staff. I get a faculty staff ID. I have access to the recreation center. We help with hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the lawyer agreed with me on ruling number 1 and said, yes, you can get the information. It was reinstated, and there's never been any questions since. The reason I share it with you is I encourage you guys to go to try to get your information. Jamie Rogers, Arliss, if you'd call on Jamie as soon as I finish, he's tried to do so at University of South Carolina. I think Eddie Gilliam may have tried at University of Florida. I think my son-in-law is checking into it at UALR. But once again, I agree with Morgan. This is a time when they might be more open to doing it. I know that may take a longer process than helping this year, but all the information's here if you want to see it. So that's something else that I did. Then the last document that I posted on Bill's thing is our fall of 2020 telephone guide. I told you guys that I've got about 200 names of freshmen. My wife and I are between houses, and so I'm living at the BCM Center, and this is my home 24/7. So I've been calling through those freshman names, and it's been so encouraging for them and for me both to talk to these freshmen in the fall of 20 about what's going on in their life. I've not said much about the BCM. It's mainly, hey, what happened to you? What was your last day of school? Some of them got to say bye to their friends. Some of them didn't. What have you been doing? What are we going to live next fall, et cetera, et cetera. And we did a Zoom call last night with 10 of them, new freshmen in the fall of 20, and it went fantastic. So this is just kind of a guide. Like I said, I think the freshmen of this year are probably going to be more open to spiritual things than any generation we've ever worked with because of what they've done. This is really a life and death, obviously, type of situation. It's one of those times when I think God can really use this time to help us to reach out to freshmen in ways we've never done so before. That wasn't bad, Arliss. That was about 12 minutes. How's that?
Well, real quick, now you did the Zoom with some incoming freshmen last night. How did you connect with them? Who set that up? Give us about 60 seconds on that.
What we did is when we call them, I would ask them if they want to be a Zoom call. Then I texted them all, invited them to be a Zoom call. And that was interesting too. Some of the ones that joined up last night, they joined the call. I didn't know they were going to join the call because I sent them the ID number. So we had about 4 upperclassmen leaders and we did it twice. So we had 4 the first time, I think 6 the second. And it was just very, very successful stuff. So.
Okay. Hey, Jamie Rogers, University of South Carolina. Now, you have appealed for the Baptist Preference List. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, man. So I'm brand new, been here like a year, and thankfully Morgan followed your kind of advice early on, got involved in the campus ministries meetings and chaplains meetings, and we have a liaison that meets between us and the school's president's office. Thankfully, our new president is a believer, and I actually just emailed him today asking him if we could get the information from incoming freshmen during the online orientations. And an appeal to both of these people, out of that, just saying, listen, we're not gonna be able to get the names that we normally get. Is this a possibility that we might could add this to the orientations? And I actually used Steve a little bit, and he had given me a list of the 7 SEC schools that already get this information. And so when I emailed her, she actually emailed me back. She said, well, hey, can you get me the information on those schools? And so Steve had already given me the list. I emailed her that list. And so I'm assuming now that she's probably following up with them to find out what information they get, who they get it from. And so, man, we're pushing. I appealed. I don't know about you guys, but I know that our leadership knows that they need spiritual counselors on campus. That's what they see us as, of course, right? And but they realize that they can't get it done all the way, and they need us. And so, man, I've just been praying that God would use even that. I've been appealing to that to try to get this information from them. And so I think right now it's probably in the works to get it from them, Arliss.
Super. Anybody real quick, we're going to be done here in about 3 or 4 minutes. Anybody real quick, you've learned something different in regard to how orientation may be done or welcome week done this fall because of the virus situation? Any new thoughts, or, hey, this is what's going to happen, or whatever? Anybody real quick?
Arliss,
Yeah.
one thing that I would mention, and this is just to the side, those individuals that you have help you get those names, or that you have contact with the university, recognize that as you prepare to get those names shouldn't be the only time you're talking to them.
Great.
You need to be talking to those people more often than any other administration individuals. You need to be talking with them, at least 4 or 5 times in a semester. How you doing? Checking up. That's great. Bye.
Well, I have found, and sometimes the people that hand me the list sideways are the recruiting office, because they know how important it is for students to get connected. So if you're not friends with folks in the recruiting office, I would encourage you to go that way. Good. Anybody else?
Hey, Arliss, I want to share this. Bill Collins, I was up on his campus several years ago, and we were walking across campus, and faculty member, staff member, administration, everybody just knew Bill. And it kind of challenged me to get to know some of the faculty, administrative more people here, because they're just invaluable to have those relationships when you need it.
Steve,
I was walking across campus one day and the lady said, "There's Mr. Baptist." She didn't know my name, but she knew. Yeah, exactly.
Steve, it's easy that I'm invited into the student programs committee each week. They sort of expect me to show now after a number of years, and so when you stay like you've stayed someplace a long time and been God's gracious to allow you to stay. Those relationships really develop like that. But this is all good stuff. I'm gonna shut up now.
Hey, Ginger Bowman, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Hey, in just a minute, I want you to lead us in prayer. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
All right. Hey, hang on just a minute. I want to mention a couple of things for prayer. A lot of words been going around this week about different people having funds cut, and it's affected everything from the money they're going to get for their budget to some of them affecting their salaries, etc. And I want us to remember and particularly pray for those folks. And some of you may be in that category, but I'm aware of several people there. And then also Milt Hughes, who was in the National BCM office for years and is 90 years old doing college ministry out in California, fell and broke his hip about a week and a half ago. And I've been praying and want us to pray for Milt. And particularly, he's somebody that's still doing what God called him to do a long, long time ago.
Arliss,
yeah.
can we also share this with it? This is sponsored by the Collegiate Minister Fellowship, which is a group of us that meets together 2 out of every 3 years. But we're open for ideas and suggestions for topics. And Bill, why don't you share a word before Ginger prays about the topic for next week?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's very timely with what Arliss just said. Next week, we're going to be focusing on fundraising during this COVID crisis. And so, some of you that have been fundraising for a long time may have questions about what's the best way to approach donors now. And some of you may be thinking, by the fall, I may be in a situation where I need to fundraise more than I ever have for either your personal salary or for ministry funds. And so we've got Steve Shadrack, Scott Belmore, and Daryl Cook are going to join us next week and share some things that they're doing. And we'll have a time for Q&A after that. So that'll be next week.
Well, and the reason Daryl is on there at Virginia Tech, you may think, well, I'm employed by the convention. That's not an issue. But now in Virginia, the convention employed Baptist campus ministers are having to raise a percentage of their own salary. So no telling what all is coming down the line later and so forth. Hey, Ginger, lead us a word of prayer, would you?
Okay, be glad to. Father, we thank you for this time that we've had together and for all the ideas shared. Lord, it is just evident that you're at work on campuses across our nation. And we know that these are different days and we are facing different challenges than we've ever faced before. And yet we know that you are still in control and that you still have a plan and you still care about each one of these freshmen that will be coming to campuses this fall. And so we ask that you would give us wisdom, you'd give us big ideas and small ideas. And we pray for open doors of opportunity and for people of peace in places and positions of leadership that could help us to reach out to this generation of incoming freshmen. God, we lift up those who are struggling financially right now, or maybe have questions about where their funding's coming from. God, we ask that you would just provide for each one of them and provide them peace in these days. And Lord, we ask that you'd be with Milt. We thank you for all of the years of ministry and his wonderful life. Lord, we just pray that you would bless him during these days and heal him and just be close to him. And we pray protection for him as well from the sickness that's going around. And Lord, I don't know, I'm sure there are plenty of us in this group who know people who are affected by the virus. And so we ask healing and protection for each one of them. And Lord, most of all, we are so thankful for Jesus that we serve and for what he means to us. And we pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Hey, one last word before you go. There is a GroupMe of College Ministers Fellowship. If you're not in it, a lot of word is passed that way. Why, let Steve or Bill or me or somebody know, and we'll get you in that group and you can get the different word that's passed around. Hey, thanks to everybody for being here. Look forward to seeing you again.